Welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Rising podcast, journeys of descending into the mysteries and rising from the roots. I am your host, Lisa Hillier, spiritual mentor and priestess. I have guided hundreds of women through my one-to-one mentorship, online courses, and Patreon portal into the mysteries within them to rise rooted into their sovereign selves. And today I have the creator and contributor of Wake Up Mother on the show. Wake Up Mother is a community. It is also a collaborative book containing the collective wisdom of mothers. It's held by the Unbound Press, a publishing imprint for unbound women. Sarah Lloyd is the creator. Sarah is a conscious mother of two little girls. Sarah is passionate about giving those who need a voice one voice. Through her own brand of magic-based conscious PR and communications, she has supported many women and entrepreneurial mothers in business to share their stories. She also gets that there is a need to balance it all. An intuitive angel communicator and Reiki energy master herself, she specializes in working in flow, so has thrown the PR rulebook out the window. Her mission is to teach and guide changemakers and visionaries to share their stories without fear on their terms. Her purpose is to show others it is possible to carve a new way of being. And we also have Kathy Bell on the show with us today, and Kathy Bell is a contributing author to Wake Up Mother. She is a conscious mother to one, an experienced breathwork facilitator, business mentor, and published author whose love language is holding loving, clear, and expansive spaces for you to ground your soul's essence into your human reality while supporting you to step fully into the work that you came here to do. Kathy has created her own facilitator training to teach others her unique formula for holding space in sacred spaces and continues to share authentically from the heart that being human is the point when it comes to spirituality. And it is so beautiful having these two amazing women on the show with me. Sarah and Kathy are dear friends whom I met on a retreat in Glastonbury in Avalon, the first one I ever went on with Rebecca Campbell. And so I am so excited to have the two on the show together for a really potent conversation around the mother. Can't wait to dive into this episode with you. And if you feel called to support the podcast, please like or share, subscribe or follow this episode. And if you feel like making a financial contribution, please join the Patreon portal. Can't wait to sink in with you. So excited to see how this conversation weaves and threads, and it's all about a book that was co-created called Wake Up Mother, and I think it's such an important conversation to have. So to start, we're going to start with Sarah. What has been the journey to writing this book? What was the inspiration? How did it come to be birthed?
It's interesting you started by saying weaved and threads, because that's basically been the theme through the whole thing. And just before we jumped on, I was going down memory lane. I was pulling out some pictures of all the times I've been to Glastonbury, all the times I've sat in circle, the times where we first met, the three of us. I think it was on that retreat. I can't even tell you how long ago it was now.
It was 2017.
Is it 2017? Yes. Oh my gosh.
The year I got married.
That's
wow.
6 years ago. Wow.
That's so, yeah, 2017. We sat in circle, never met before, cried, screamed, laughed, whatever. There's the whole story behind the scream. And I remember coming back from that retreat. I think I was very early. So my youngest daughter was a year old, and I didn't realize I'd had horrendous postnatal depression. And I guess it was just that healing journey from that point, meeting you ladies and then staying in circle for all those years, and then regularly meeting up with Kathy and yourself, Lisa. That was the steps that it took before I had this moment in the shower where it was like, I think it was lockdown. I was hating my life because I was getting up at 4 a.m. to nurture and birth my own business. But then because we were homeschooling, I was kind of having to nurture and homeschool the kids and look after them until about 3 o'clock, where I could stick them in front of Disney Plus. So I was kind of this point in the shower, I was like, for fuck's sake, this is not it. This cannot be it. And I cannot be the only one dealing with all this. And I just got this, kind of come to Jesus moment in the shower where I heard, wake up, mother. It's like, it's not about you. It's about the children. It's about all the other things. And yes, you do need to heal this stuff kind of message. So then I got this kind of call to arms almost, where I danced around the idea of pulling together a book. And I thought, well, no one's going to want to read just what I've got to say. This needs to be other people's perspectives, because we all can sit in circle but have very, very different journeys in mother in particular. So I called in the authors and they came, and they were people that I knew, people that I didn't know, people that have got children, people that have got businesses, people that want children, people that don't want children. It was a real eclectic mix of women that showed up, and we started meeting once a month it was a year ago. So February in bulk, we held a ceremony, and we met probably once every 4 to 6 weeks to just talk into what mother meant to us. And we asked a question every time we met. We sat in circle and we just talked into our stories. So it was kind of like a fireside chat on Zoom, but then what that then led to was what our chapters were about. So I'm going to stop talking because I'm sure Kathy's got some thoughts on that, but that was how we just weaved and sewed this book together. And it took 9 months because obviously it would have done. So yeah.
So is it each woman's personal story, or is it each of your stories woven all together?
Mix of both, I think it was the big question was, what does mother mean to you? So most people wrote each of us had what mother means to me, what is my story, what was my experience, and kind of thoughts around sharing with other mothers, considerations or tips or whatever. I think most people it was about a point in time, a story that was coming up quite loudly during our circle time, I think.
Yeah. Kathy, what is mother for you?
Oh, you're going straight in with that one. I don't get any prep. Like I don't. I just want to have the same questions as Sarah, please. No, I'll come to what mother means to me in a second. I'm just going to fill in some gaps there, guys, because I'm listening and I'm so yeah, Sarah. So, as we know, Lisa and I both know Sarah is a visionary, and so when she comes with an idea, I think I'm going to do this thing. It's kind of, you kind of listen, like, Sarah, she doesn't, and it happens. Yeah. And it's always big. And I immediately wanted to get involved. So when Sarah said, I was in the shower, when she was just telling her story there, and as soon as you said, wake up, mother, Sarah, I got full body chills and the tears welled up in my eyes. Like Lisa's nodding. I don't know if Lisa, you got the same. It was like that. I was like, oh, this is something I want to be involved in. If just the title creates this reaction in my body, I want a piece of this. But then I was really out. I was like, do I want to connect to this group of women? Do I want to write my story? Do I want to share again? Who wants to hear it? Do I need to drag it up? And there was this whole dance around me and my chapter and connecting with the group. But I knew that I had to be there in some capacity. So I wrote my chapter right at the last minute, as did Sarah. And yeah, our book, Wake Up Mother, it does have it's 3 parts. It has maybe more than 3 parts, but I think 2 distinct sections of, like Sarah said, the conversations that we had. So there's transcripts in the beginning part where our stories and our opinions and are woven together, but then each one of us has shared our own story. And that's not just I personally shared the lead up to my birthing story and a little bit of my birth story, but it's not the whole, it's not just about that. My chapter's actually called I Never Set Out to Be a Space Holder. So framing that mother role, to me, like, I became a mother and my initiation was to become a space holder at the same time. Like, it was that was the initiation for me. But then the other ladies' chapters, they dance through all kinds of fun and serious, and also, like, whimsical sometimes, journeys that we've all been on as mothers, or not mothers. Those of the authors who have chosen consciously not to be parents, who are not parents or mothers yet, and really aspire to be, and maybe have dedicated their life so far to their business, their conscious business, and their creations. So in terms of, that's what I wanted to fill in.
Yeah. Well, I think
all,
that's an important conversation, is what is the archetype of the mother? It's not necessarily just about birthing children, but there's this innate desire or need, I would say, in us as creatrix, as like this portal with the womb to create something, to birth something.
Such anger as well. I mean, there was some real anger in some of the conversations, like real, like the fact that we've been squeezed, and I guess the other thing that came up really quite loudly for me was that, going off and having a mother's meeting, are you? What are you going to discuss? And it's like, I wanted to reframe that mother's meeting, that disgust, that judgment, that you're just off talking about nail varnish, kind of, fluffy, off the girls go kind of situation. Whereas we were having really deep, really gritty conversations about the state of the world and how it, it can be lived. We can do things so much better, differently. So, it's that whole women, getting a bit like annoyed with stuff. I mean, I think one of the chapters, Emma, she wrote a chapter around, she was being victimized on her breastfeeding journey, and things like having those issues in hospital when you give birth, when a doctor or a nurse is telling you that you're not doing it right, and it starts there if you're a parent. But then equally, if you're a business owner, there's always this this patriarchal background that's telling us to that we're not doing it right. So there's this whole, like, we're almost deep down within us, we're told that we don't know what we're doing, and that the little women should just follow what the man's telling us to do. And it was a real, actually, there's real strength in women, there's real strength and wisdom in this, in these cosmic womb that we carry. And I think at the time there was a lot of uproar around Wade and Roe, I think, with the abortions and all of that, just kind of my body, my choice kind of messaging was coming up very loudly. So that it was a real kind, it just felt like a massive call to arms to just hang on a minute. We are strong and powerful. You wouldn't be here without us. Yeah, kind of thing. But doing it in a beautiful, gentle, feminine way, not kind of rocking up with our placards,
yeah, keeping that the nourishment and love and surrendering aspects of the feminine. It's not a fight, but it's like we have a voice and we have a lot to say. And when we think about just in watching friends raise their baby recently, there's so much shame that comes in if you're like co-sleeping or doing it a different way than the ways that we were raised, where it was like, let the baby cry it out, sleep train, all those different things. And it's like, what if there was a new way of mothering, or if a mother was listening to her own intuition and following that and listening to the baby, like having this really beautiful co-creative relationship, as opposed to I'm going to control and train and make this child who I think they should be. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a beautiful, like, soul contract between the mama and the baby. And and letting it be this co-creation. Kathy, what is mother to you?
So I think mother to me, it has to come down to that space holding part piece. I know mother, physically mothering is holding a lot of space for a conscious soul of the, their own free will, being here. And my daughter has her own life. She has her own destiny. She has her own fate. And Lisa, I think, I don't know if you remember, but you're one of the first people to say that to me. And it changed my grip around the parenting decisions that I was making. So I don't see parenting now as this thing that I have to control or contrive or live up to standards, because I've come to accept that my daughter has her own destiny and I am her space holder. I hold space for her to live the life that she came here to live. And that's not to say I don't look after her. That's just to say I've let go of, oh God, I think she should be doing this. No, she's here to make her own decisions, be her own person, and I'm holding space for that. And mother to me, I suppose, again, extends out to nature and to the great mother and to our earth, our home. Throughout the book, there was actually a cover version that had like trees and was very earthy. It didn't quite fit, which is why it didn't make the cover. But it, many of us have that relationship with the great mother, with the earth, with that safe, solid sureness, groundedness of the soil. And to me, it's that. The earth is the ultimate space holder. As she holds us all, watches and leans back and doesn't interfere. It's kind of the archetypal opposite of what maybe a lot of society thinks mother is, that doing everything for everybody. Like, no, I'm just gonna lean back and hold some space for you to unfold. I'm always going to be here. And those divine feminine principles, that love, compassion, and just holding that gentle wisdom, I'm here when you need me. I think that's what it is to me.
Yeah. She can be fierce sometimes though too.
Yeah, absolutely.
She can kick up a fuss and throw us a storm.
Yeah.
Course correct a little bit, but it feels like that, we're all kind of in that age where we're transitioning into crone, but that more like sitting back and holding the space, but not like reaching and striving, and gripping and controlling. It's like, that was a big lesson for me with my daughter, was because she was having some mental issues when she was in her late teenage years, and you just want to fix it. You want to make it all better. Even right now, she's having some relationship stuff and you want to fix it as a mother. And it's like, no, I have to just sit back and hold the space for her and know that she is going through her own journey. She came here with a soul contract. She came here with lessons and initiations to go through. It's not my job to fix everything. And I think that's so powerful. That, is such a lesson that we're all learning, is to sit
the hardest
back.
one, I think.
Yep. And surrender.
For a Virgo.
For me.
Oh, Virgo. Are you a Virgo?
Yeah. Virgo sun, Aquarius moon, and Cancer rising. So I'm,
that makes
totally
a lot
screwed.
of sense. That makes a lot of sense. What is mother for you, Sarah?
I should know the answer to this question, considering it was
I can find it in the book if you want.
I can probably echo everything that Kathy said, because I think I guess mother is the creatrix of everything. It's we wouldn't be here if we didn't have a mother, and we wouldn't be you know, it's our home, and you know, it's the bigness. I can't even explain it. Sorry, I'm on day one. This is.
Do you want me to read this bit here, Sarah? So there's a page. There's a page
read
in
that
the book,
bit, because I mean that's where the rage came from, because it pissed me off when I went and looked in the dictionary and it said human being that gives birth to another human being. And I was like, that is the smallest sentence for the biggest fucking job in the whole world. It's like,
so Sarah, so you
nutshell it.
Sarah made her own definition up, which I think is incredible. So a goddess on earth, a female figure of authority, a creatrix, a holder of the hearth, weaver of deep connection, and one who tends to the inner wisdom and knowing, a soothsayer who births, illuminates, protects, and nurtures.
I love that. Was it keeper of the hearth?
Yeah, holder of the hearth.
Holder of the hearth. It's like the keeper of the stories and the weaver. And that's what you guys have done with your book. It's the stories that are, you know, passed down from generation to generation. Like, what a gift for your daughters. We all have daughters.
Yeah, we do.
Thought of that. Yeah. Yeah.
I felt there's another piece I'd love to read to you, if that's all right. So it was the whole, you know, it was written for women who are rocking their mother energy, those women who felt lost, alone, unsupported, dimmed, squashed, uncomfortable, unable to speak for truth for fear of it highlighting shadows. Mothers, sisters, witches, bitches, whores, and good girls. It's for the mothers of children, furry friends, businesses, and creative projects. I suppose you couldn't fit that in the dictionary, really, could you? Mother is when we're most fertile physically. It's when we begin to nurture, guide, and support those around us. Our creative blooming, the ripening fruit, our period of birthing ideas, businesses, and babies. It's also the time we are asked to quietly shoulder a lot. Societal pressures, conditioning from authorities, media exposure, and emotional immaturity are all designed to keep us forever in our girlhood and our maiden. The never-ending quest to stay young, look young, but successful, the cook in the kitchen, the whore in the bedroom, a construct designed to suit the patriarchy. Add to that the pressure of procreation, our biological clocks ticking, being expected to carry on regardless, our playground wounds playing out in adult life, inability to feel able to mother ourselves for fear of being selfish, emotionally immature women growing up alongside their children. Taboos around the reality of childbirth, menarche, menstruation, perimenopause, menopause, orgasms, leaky nipples, and female ejaculation. The reality that babies are not just for Christmas. Businesses, children, and creative projects take a village to raise. It is in our mother energy we find our community, our village, and sanity. The opportunity to face and embrace our shadows with no judgment. It is in those shadows we find ourselves. The parts of us unseen or in darkness, parts hidden from the world or even ourselves. This book is that big searchlight looking over the ocean, shining a light on the unseen, the unspoken, wrapped in a big cozy blanket of love. There you go.
You should submit that.
I guess that's what mother means to me.
You should write a book, Sarah.
I should, shouldn't I?
You should. That is powerful, and there's so many threads to that, and that's the depth of what it is to be a mother, to be a woman. Like, there's so much mystery. It's like this never-ending cosmic womb that is full of so much wisdom. And just the one, I mean, there's so many parts that stood out there, but that, like, condition to stay in maiden and to stay looking young and youthful. And, you know, I was on the phone with one of my best friends, and her sisters are getting Botox and just full of fillers and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm choosing not to do that at this time in my life. And she's like, you're aging gracefully, you know, just naturally. But we see this difference happening on the planet of, you need to strive to look young. And there's no shame in doing that if that's your choice, 100%. But it's like, how do we take that back? Like, the wisdom that comes with age, the beauty that comes with age, the confidence and just standing in ourselves without feeling like we're constantly searching for our maidenhood back. Like, I need this back.
I feel like the way that we are all, certainly the women that were in circle, and certainly the women that I've sat in circle with, who are, there are things that we do to I still dye my hair. I want to keep dyeing my hair.
Me too.
However, there are things like, I just want to be strong. I just want to get fit and be strong and be mentally fit and strong. And that is something that I think the mothering piece, mothering ourselves, and obviously with breath work, I go to Kathy for my breath work to keep me mentally kind of in the game. So I think without things like that, without meditation and yoga and walking and being in nature, I feel like I'm also resting more, because I'm not in that corporate environment anymore where I was having to have my hair done, do my nails, do all the things. I feel like if you're in that aspect of society, there's this whole pressure to keep up with everybody. But if you step out of that society and surround yourselves with women that are not that bothered by that stuff, the beauty shines through anyway. I feel like the women that I'm surrounded by, they're not Botoxing or anything, but they are so beautiful just because they're resting, taking care of themselves, getting their vitamin D, all those things. I think there's just no role model out there showing us that that's what they're doing. It's, they're all, it's horrendous actually, isn't it? Like when I saw the Friends thing, when they're all Botox to bits, it's awful.
It is a huge topic, and honestly, I'm almost 40, it's one of the things that I'm really I struggle with the most, letting go of, like, the face, like as the lines are getting deeper, and I'm like, it's really hard, and I have to keep questioning myself, like, do I really want that? Why would I really, why would I want to get filler? I could easily get filler. Why am I doing that? Who am I, trying to look good for? And what are the constructs of my mind and thoughts and belief systems that are telling me that that's what I need to do? Because my husband certainly doesn't think I need to do that. And I don't think anybody who loves me and, is a friend of mine will be like, yeah, babe, I think you need to get some filler. Like, it comes from me and my, what's the word? I suppose the culture, the society, the conditioning, that's the word.
Yeah. The
conditioning that surrounded me as a child and beyond that. Because I don't plug into magazines or the Daily Mail online or the most mainstream
Disney princesses we used to watch.
Do you think?
I do think it's
princess.
all that stuff. It starts from a very young age. It really does, because we're we're subjected to what it should, Disney princess.
Yeah, and the old hag, like the old hag.
Old hag witch.
The witch. The witchy old hag.
I Googled crone. Because I'm starting a crone group, because I'm in crone and in menopause. And it was all old haggy witches. And I'm like, that is not the crone.
No.
So it's like we're scared of this archetype of the wise woman. It was so, I was like, oh gosh, I'm not using any of those pictures.
Fairy tales have done us a disservice for years, haven't they, really? If you think about it, it's like,
be rescued, fear the old witch.
And when you start sprouting hairs, that's it.
Run for the hills, totally. And it's interesting, I think it was you, Sarah, who said about, we don't see the journey of women aging gracefully. We don't really see that on social media. And I would have to 100% agree. And what's interesting for me over this past year, as I'm, I guess I'm in crone, I don't feel like I'm going to say more wild woman, but I've really taken a step back from social media and being seen, just because I don't want to be anymore. It wasn't, it was like, it didn't fill me as much as it used to, like that self-expression and stuff. And so I just wonder if that's part of aging, is you want to take a step back and just be like, there's that real slowing down where I don't want to share as much of my story anymore. On the podcast I do, but it's not like out on social media. And I just wonder if that happens for women as they age, where it's like in a really gracefully way, taking a step back and slowing down. But it inspires me to be more vocal and share more of my journey, so that women are seeing other women, in this more aging space, as we're midlife, I'm just over my midlife crisis. It's a real thing.
I say that we don't have role models, and then I've got faces like, Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders, who are, Judi Dench, and there's a lot of amazing women actresses who are still.
Emma Thompson,
like completely rocking it, isn't she? And Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, but they're like a handful of women that, there's the other flip side of the Jennifer Anistons and the Courtney Coxes, and she's just come out saying she wished she'd never had fillers. And there's almost this U-turn happening at the moment, I think, where it's about being strong and fit as opposed to, looking like Barbie.
Skin. Yeah.
I had an episode on the podcast just recently released around hormonal health, balancing your hormones. And Madeline talked a lot about, what if it wasn't about being skinny or dieting? What if it was about balancing your hormones, and more about your inner strength and your mental balance and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to, I need to be skinny, I need to look a certain way, because when your hormones are balanced, that ripples out into every aspect of your life, where you're strong and your metabolism, and you've got your libido and all of that kind of stuff. It's not about looking a certain way. It's about how you feel. And just coming back to getting rid of wrinkles and filling and all that kind of stuff, your inner radiance glows through 1 million times more than smooth skin. You know what I mean?
Think the other thing as well, like, just to talk into that, is I don't think I've ever changed my skincare regime since I was 20. And I'm now hitting 44, and I'm realizing actually I should probably use some moisturizer, and I probably should use, some beauty, I should start looking after my skin, because I want it around.
I just want to pause here. You both have incredible skin. Like, you both, like, you're naturally gifted. You're just very naturally skin gifted, guys. So
thank you.
But it does become more about taking care of this organ.
It's mothering yourself.
Yeah.
Again.
It's mothering yourself. Yeah. So you feel good, and you're not like, what's the word? Like, sometimes I walk up the stairs and I'm like, oh, my bones are aching, like I got to get orthopedics. But like, it's taking care of yourself so that you can move and feel good and be, go for hikes, be able to express your body and fully live in your body and have a healthy body, And
I feel like this weaves, it's definitely more about this self-love piece than it is, and this longevity of relationship with you, rather than finding a quick fix. I think a successful, if we're going to be successful women, and not just successful as in climbing any ladders, but I mean have our legacy live on and live beautiful lives. That's our legacy, isn't it? To live beautiful lives and express these archetypes of of the wild woman and the crone. I keep using successful. That's a bit of a shit word, but you get what I mean. Like, to live those expressions of what it means to be a woman, and give younger generations and give our peers good role models. It has to be about creating this long relationship, deep and loving, beautiful relationship, rather than going for those quick fixes and the Botox and
It's totally mothering ourselves. It's mothering. When we move into mother, the biggest shift needs to be you mother yourself first. It's the oxygen mask first. It's even though you've given birth, or you're creating, or you're you're supporting out your older generations, or you're nurturing your younger generations. This is the problem. We're slap bang in the middle of those two generations, and then you're in the middle trying to do everything. And it's like, hang on a minute, the most important person here is you need to mother yourself first. And then you've got energy for everybody else. And I think that's the thing, that we're always made to feel selfish and guilty and bad mums, bad partners, because we're not, we're serving everybody else. And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, I'm done. That's wrong. It should be the other way around, isn't it? I think that's the biggest lesson. I'm still learning it. I don't think you ever get it perfect, but I think the fact that I know now when I need to have a day and sleep because I'm exhausted, I can't, I used to try and book it in around the kids' schedules. That doesn't happen anymore. I just have to go and do it. And actually what I'm seeing as a result of that is the kids are now starting to calm down. And if they need to rest, then they go and rest. Instead of me going, go and have a nap. For God's sake, I need a nap. Go and have a nap. It's like, if I do it, they'll come and lay with me. It's almost giving yourself permission to do what's right for you, and then everything else will follow.
Yeah. When it comes to legacy, and I think that's such a beautiful word that does tie into like success, but success has been so defined as your career, but success is also like raising beautiful children, or it can be so many different things. We have so many different definitions of what success is, but our current society says it's being successful, climbing a corporate ladder, making a shit ton of money, whatever it might be. But that legacy, it's like, what do we want to leave for our children? And I've been sitting with that, entering into crone, 43. I'm like, hey, this is midpoint. I've got the next 40 years, hopefully. What do I want to leave for my daughter? What do I want to create on the earth? So for both of you, what does it feel like? This is a big question. Is your legacy, like, what do you want to leave? Like, what would be the message for your daughters? That's a big question.
Oh, yeah, I got all the tingles though. What is the message for my daughters? I would love to see them living like our ancestors. Bring back the village. Don't do it alone. And yes, I'm sure Sarah will just be like, yep, that too. But yeah, don't do it alone. Bring back the village. We were not, I know when my daughter and my niece and nephew were young, we used to spend a lot of time with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and they'd be like, should we just get a house? Should we just get a house together and just have 2 separate houses with a door? Because it made sense. It was, if you didn't think about the future, if you just thought about the now, it was like, that's like the best thing. We'll move my mum in, they can have a bit down the bottom, and it'll be brilliant. Like, we'll all be separate, but we'll all be together. Like that community, ancient tribes, and very, very kind of, I don't want to be I don't want to say the wrong word here because I'm going off on a tangent, but just that. I'm going to stop speaking.
Yeah, no, that I've thought so much about that over these past couple of months because I'm alone. We're never alone, but I live far away from my mother and my daughter and my sister, and going through this initiation ancestrally, I would have had a group of women supporting me through that. Childbirth, we would have had groups of women supporting us through that. We wouldn't be on our own. And I think that is such a necessary aspect of life to come back, is the village, and it's like, I remember pre-COVID, the thought of living on land with my mother and my sister and my daughter, I would cringe. Like, I'd be like, no way. Now
Yeah.
that is all I want, like-minded people supporting one another, growing food together, having that community, because that is what heals in so many ways. So many ways. Sarah, what does legacy look like for you?
I mean, you guys have summed it up massively, but I do think, like, you can see the social constructs that have always, well, I guess the last 2.5 years, I've realized it's almost like the scales fell from my eyes. It's like, you have definitely been sleepwalking through life. I mean, I thought that I'd had an awakening moment like 6-7 years ago, but I guess the last 3 years have really taught me that, there is so much more that can fall away, and there will be even more fall away by the time my girls grow up. And, you see it, people are wanting a simpler life. And for me, a successful legacy will be that they know that they were loved, and that, being kind and being fair and being strong are measures of a successful life, I guess. And I can say we've written books and we've created communities and we're supporting other women, and that would be an amazing legacy too. But bottom line, I just want my kids to be beautiful, loving human beings, and, treating others in the same way, I guess. But like you say, don't do it alone. It's like community is sitting in that circle. In 2017, I realized I had never sat in a space like it. It had always been in a situation where I was either, unconsciously competing with somebody, another woman in my space, or sitting there drunk, bitching about another group of women. And I'm just so glad I'm not doing that anymore. I'm so glad that, when I come together with people in circle, we're talking about more meaningful subjects, and it's not so vacuous and petty, I guess. I think that I'd love to just see some more depth in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah that depth, and having real, vulnerable, open conversations where there's truth to what's really going on. It's not like, oh, everything's great, I'm busy at work, bitching about the men in our lives, or however it shows up. It's more like, no, this is real. This is what I'm celebrating. And this is also what I'm struggling with in this moment, because in that we don't feel alone. There's real life experiences and depth to it. The spiral just came up for me. And can you speak to what the spiral means? And because it's on the cover of the beautiful book, but it feels like that going deeper and deeper and deeper, like that
We're
depth.
always learning. You think you've learned something, and then you have to learn it again in a different, it was like, it's the peeling of the onion. It's that I don't think we're ever done, but I also feel like the more we tread the spiral, the wiser we get. And there's always going to be someone behind us that's learning from us, and there's always going to be someone in front of us who's teaching us. And I feel like that we're always on that spiral. It's like when we were sitting in circle, everyone, different ages, different stages, but we were teaching the crone of the group how to do things, and she was teaching us other things. We're always going to have different wisdom is going to be shared. I think it's almost like every day's a school day and everyone's your teacher. It's almost that kind of analogy. And I guess, there was something else that it's gone now, but it might come back again in a minute, around kind of the legacy of this project and kind of moving forwards. Is I just really hope that our kids can sort of see the type of work that we're doing and understand that, I think it was the trick. There you go. It was the triggers. We were sitting in and someone would trigger us, And instead of going off and having how I would have probably reacted in the past, and she triggered me, I don't like her anymore. It was kind of, she triggered me. What is that? What am I having to heal here? I just really hope my kids find people that can sit in circle with them and help them heal through those things, as opposed to just, having to, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm done.
It's like how the bully culture has moved on, hasn't it? Like we're much more as a society, I think, in general, aware of when someone is maybe outwardly expressing trauma or inner turmoil or pain, and that expresses like bullying or bitching. We're much more aware of that now, that actually it's not about the other person, it's about the person who's it's coming from. And I think that's, I don't want to say forced,
pain,
but
isn't it?
It's encouraged a lot of people to go inwards and do their own inner spiral. Like the spiral, for me, I always see that at the heart, and it's like that spiraling inward, deeper and deeper and deeper into like the mysteries, as Lisa would say, like going deeper into the own mystery, the mystery of yourself, and the mystery of your own heart and your own past and your own history, in a way. As a spiral for me, it's always this heart thing, and going into the depths to emerge brighter, lighter and wiser, I suppose. And of course that spiral represents that circle, and I think the circle's such a symbol for this community that we've spoken about, bringing back the village. It's Sarah's started the story off by with us sitting in circle, and that's there are circles everywhere, whether they're like sat around the table in the pub, or whether you're at your mother's meeting, or whether you're at the play group, or whether you're wherever you are, we sit round together. But I echo what Sarah said, I'd love for more depth to be there too, within these communities, within circles, within our conversations, being truthful and open and vulnerable. One of my biggest drivers, the reason why I share stories and why I share on social media, and why I it's kind of the foundation really of my business, is sharing these vulnerable stories, because nobody should ever, I don't believe anybody should ever feel alone in their darkness. And the more of us that can share our vulnerability, we allow other people to know that it's okay and that they're not alone. And when we can do that, it just has that chain reaction, it unveils or lifts the veil off the shame that I think, and self-judgment that a lot of us carry. Like, my life is like this, shame, and it's so shameful. But actually, when we tell the story and other people go, I'm so pleased you shared that, thank you for sharing that, that's me too, or I had a similar thing, I could so relate to you, all those beautiful messages or comments, it just makes it, that's the whole point. Why write Wake Up Mother? It's that call to arms Sarah said around the injustice that we were feeling, especially coming out of COVID. That's when I think the mother load, I tagged Sarah actually on Facebook the other day. Somebody that I follow shared a brilliant quote about how we're expected to do all the things, and it named it as the mother load. I loved that. And I think in 2020, 2021, that's when the mother load became, we all realized what immense pressure we were being put under, to school, to parents, to work, to be the space holders, to do it all and not have any community ourselves, like not be able to go and see our, be with our friends, or be with our sisters, or be with our families, and have that space to be seen and be held. We all got taken away. So I forgot my point, but circle back to the circle. I think I started speaking about this.
I guess I wanted to add to that as well, because obviously that's the piece that we don't want to bash men or And I think that was the other thing. It's like we didn't want to, it wasn't an outward attack on the patriarchy or the masculine. So the masculine, not the patriarchy, the masculine. Because what we realized as well, going through things like the pandemic, is, you know, I needed to communicate better with my husband. And we just weren't emotionally equipped to deal with, hey, I can't do it all. And the first lockdown, I definitely found it difficult to express what I needed. And, you know, it was just an assumption that I would deal with everything. But the thing that also that came up is that the masculine, they need to be told what they need, how they can help us and support us, because they're not taught that either. Yeah. And I think that was another piece that came up in the book. I mean, we don't talk about it so much in the book, but it was definitely something that I was shown around the birthing of the book. We had a ceremony and I did I went within to see what the work was about. And it was around the original, I was shown an original space that I was holding, which was a birthing ceremony. So it was, you know, we're all in white and it was snowdrops and it was quite, you know, ancient kind of birthing ritual. And the Roman soldiers came, and what the Roman soldiers were trying to stop us from doing the work. And then when we explained to the Roman soldiers what it was actually about, and it was the celebration of this baby and the birthing of a new human being, they kind of dropped their swords and joined the circle and joined this circle in divine union. So there was almost like, yes, we're leading the way as the mothers because we're the ones that birth children, birth ideas, etc. But the masculine need to be with us too. And that talks about the feminine and the masculine within us, and also in these circles and communities, which is why it's like we wouldn't all go and like live in a tent, us women, without the men, because we need the men, you know, without them we can't have children. So it's like that whole, it's back to that divine union piece again. So hopefully that made some sense. I knew there was some waffle in there somewhere.
No, that was beautiful. It's that co-creation, and men are so different from us. I remember, Kathy, you recommended I read the Queen's Code years and years
Queen's
ago.
Code, brilliant.
It's so good. And
so
Keys
good.
to the Kingdom. And just, you tell a man what you need and he will go, you know, a nice man. I don't know.
Yeah. And like when and how it'll make you feel. Yeah. Sarah, I mean, I think the Queen's Code came through Elaine, I think, you know. So I think our friend Elaine shared that with a few of us, and I passed it on, because it's the Queen's Code. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
right.
It's like the next. I mean, I've never read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but I imagine that's, you know, it's like the next level version of that.
Yeah, but it's like, you tell a man how he can serve you and provide for you, and he will go to great lengths to do that. And that's how they're wired so different from us. And so that, like, we need them chopping the wood, you know, just that ancestral way of living, providing.
Yeah. And even do you know what, that just sparked the idea, like, you know, of the women would give orders. It wouldn't be, you know, we're kind of in this, especially our generation, we believe that, like, the men, you know, the men wear the trousers, they're in charge, the man, you know. And actually it's like, what if the dynamic was a little bit different, and if we could change that status quo, that would be quite,
you know, what I love is that the masculine leads in the seen and the woman leads in the unseen.
Oh, yeah.
And so it might look like the man is leading, and I like being led, but our energy is what is guiding how he leads, you know. So there's like, I love that, because it's like,
I love that too.
For me, one of my greatest lessons, and I think we can all attest to this, is letting go of control. And so trying to control men, but it's like, when I can surrender to him, he's leading in the seen, but I'm in the unseen, you know, that letting go of control. And that's such a big part with children as well, is letting go of that control just with life. And Kathy, when you were speaking to lockdowns and everything, like we literally went to the other side of the pendulum of community. You know, we were drove to that, and now it's like bring that back in a really, really beautiful way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting times. And I think we're really seeing that big shift, the kind of the rippling effect of what we all went through with that. With that, the earth, can we speak to the earth, like our great mother, a little bit, and just our children, you know, like how I grew up. I mean, we were outside all the time for sure, but there wasn't that reverence for the earth. There wasn't that relationship with the earth. It was just something we lived on, so to speak. And I think that more communing with the land and being in service and stewardship to the land is really coming back. Is there anything that comes up for either of you of how that's been woven with the book?
I mean,
Maybe Avalon. Does Avalon want to come through at all with that?
Well, I guess, I mean, we wrote the book before Mother, which I think is kind of our maiden book, actually.
yeah.
With Shakti Farts.
Okay, I wanted to talk about Shakti.
Here she is. Shakti Farts and Belly Laugh. But everybody else says it belly laughs because they're all posh. And I say belly laughs. But it's the cutest, funnest book. Definitely. Do you know what, Sarah? That you're so right, because that's my maiden story. So in that one, it's my chapter is the little girl that sees you. No, the little girl in me sees the little girl in you. But yeah, and she is.
Yeah, she's definitely the kind of maiden fun, because we were sitting in circle again in the land. We were actually it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was, I think we somehow managed to get we were allowed to sit in outside if there were 7 of us or something stupid like that. But we were like, we'll just book a year, we'll be outside, what are they going to do?
This was in Glastonbury, right?
This was in Glastonbury. It was
we had 2 years.
It was supposed to be a bit of a festival thing, but then due to the government having strict guidelines, we then shrunk it down to the original group, and we had people just popping in. But we were very much on the land for the week. We stayed just outside Glastonbury in a place called Banbury Meadow, which is part of the Glastonbury Zodiac. So, and the land is connected very well. We were shown there's a massive Egyptian connection there, and it's on selenite crystal. So it was very powerful earth we were sitting on. And we were like, yeah, let's write a story about this.
It was just such a powerful retreat, wasn't it? It was a retreat. We called it the fuck all retreat, because it was like, we've organized it, but nobody wants to hold any space. We just want to hang out. What are we doing today, Sarah? Fuck all. Like, what are we doing today, Sarah? You know, like that whole, and it was like, I remember having to unwind and being so uncomfortable with sitting still and not doing it, being away and not being like, what are we doing? The nervous system, like, a lot of us had to unwind, and it was really interesting to then sink into that of nothingness, and that no one was holding space. I actually did hold some breathwork space, but there was no schedule. There was no 10:30 here and 12:30 here, and there was none of that. There was no opening circle, there was no closing circle, but we were on retreat, and we all opened, didn't we, Sam? We all started to be so honest and open and vulnerable with one another. And because Sarah and I knew each other, Emma and I knew each other, but I'd never met Nicola, I'd never met Yolandi. I'd met Katie, and then other people who showed up. We all didn't know each other, so we knew each other from online spaces but not connected, and that led to this unraveling, and then this honesty, and then this vulnerability as we started to share these stories. And I did actually go off and write the little girl in me sees the little girl in you. I went off and wrote it like a little poem, and I came back and I was like, would everybody like me to read my story and my poem? And there was just so much beautiful openness and softness and vulnerability, and we did share our stories and we did kind of open up to one another. And then we came away and we wrote these stories independently from one another, and then you read it and you're like, oh my God, as if that's what they thought. Oh my God, as if that's what she was going through. Oh my God, like as if, I can't believe she was holding all that and she never shared that with us. And it honestly, if you ever go on retreat, go away after and write your experience of it, and then make a book out of it, because it will make the most beautiful story for other people to read, but also for you to read, that like that share that other people's experiences.
Because I think that was the thing. It's like we all had the blueprint of, we're in the same yurt, we all ate the same food, we all rocked up at the same time, we all went to the Abbey, we all went shopping, and it was kind of, but everybody's experience or view of that experience, that same experience, was so different. I think I love that, what was really powerful. And I think that's, I think that was the work with the land, wasn't it, Kathy? And then I think,
oh yeah, sorry, we're talking about land.
We were sat in the Abbey, and we just did it. We didn't move. We literally got there, sat under the tree that, near the Yoni stone, and we didn't really move. And everyone's like, oh, we've been here for like 6 hours.
Wow.
And then we go back to the yurts and we just sit on the land. And I think
it was the most nourishing experience, actually. And before, again, because Kathy was holding my space, basically all I did was book the venue and get some food. And basically before it, all I got shown is like, in Gladiator, where you see him walking through the fields with his hands like brushing the wheat. That was all I saw. It's like, that's what we've just got to walk around and like brush all the hay fever infested grass in Kathy's eyes.
It was so bad.
But it was this real, I don't think I've laughed so much in all my life. It was, we were just permanently giggling over the most ridiculous things. So it was really maideny. It was really fun. And the Shakti Farts piece, I have to like pay homage to Elaine, because the first time I ever met her was in the Rebecca Campbell retreat we all met at. She was my roomie, along with God, her name's gone, Christy. So the three of us were sharing, and I think what happened was Elaine just said, I might fart in my sleep, because when I'm doing energy work, it shifts through and it removes itself in the form of a Shakti fart. And it stuck with me. And I remember relaying that story on our retreat, and we were all like, yes, this is what we're going to call it.
I love that. I love Shakti farts.
What is a Shakti fart? Most people don't know. So I love that came from Elaine. I had no idea. That's amazing.
It just cracked me up. Yeah.
It like brings the humanity in about all of this healing work, where we think it's all like, you get these visions of everybody doing yoga and it's so beautiful and their goddess gowns and all of that. It's not that at all. Like, it's so not that, there's snot everywhere, tears, but there's laughter and there's joy and there's the like humanity of it, like running around looking for a Costa chai tea latte. You know what I mean?
And then not knowing what a chai tea latte is, and then having one and falling in love with it.
Yeah. And there's reality. Like, I might fart in my sleep.
The total humanity of that. Like, we were sitting around and it was freezing cold in the heat, so we were all wrapped up in blankets and cozy socks and just looking like bag ladies, actually crazy bag ladies.
I would just have dresses on and then my big massive coat. We did look crazy. But I think when it comes to the land, if we are going to talk about that, like I said at the top of the recording, she's always there holding space. The land always comes through as the space holder, the holder of the experience. And I don't always think it matters where you are, like location wise, but
No.
she's always there, present. But I know when we're outside, you know, when we spend that time outside, then she's more present. You know, if I have some other friends, you know, we might sit in someone's kitchen or whatever and have some drinks. Not the same as being sat out, you know, on the land, you know, with our bare feet on the ground, and just kind of having that outdoor experience, and visiting different sacred sites and visiting different portals, or just feeling the different energetic aspects of Mother Earth in different locations, I think is part of maybe what we've all experienced together, and sometimes maybe experienced on retreats.
Yeah, I think it's that being in communion is the word that wants to come up with the land. Like my daughter Brooklyn was just here, and we went for walks in the forest every day, and she doesn't do that at home because it's freezing cold, and she just doesn't because I made her here. And she said, she's like, I really miss that, like going in the forest every day, because there's such healing to it that you don't have to do anything except just walk through the forest, be in nature. Like she heals in such a beautiful, powerful way, and provides in such a beautiful, powerful way. When we just sit with her, you know, in a very intentional way, or even unintentional way. But there just feels like there's that stewardship with the land coming back that wasn't part of my childhood, where you're her protector as well, and her space holder as well. And, you know,
it's interesting that, isn't it, how the land has become, you know, I think it's claiming the land. I don't know of any of it where I live, but you know, that kind of where the man is not all men, but the man in inverted commas is, you know, taking land. And it's like, actually, whose is this? This is our land, and our you know, even down to the environment. Like, I think it's so important for us to have that communion with the environment and care not only just about the earth, but about the plants and animals that exist here as well, because they're all we're all part of it together.
We're not separate. That's what I really receive from that. We're part of it. We're definitely part of it. Were there any common threads that came through with the stories of the struggles of being a mother, and any wisdom that came through on how you navigate that?
I think there were some interesting discussions around our mothers and how they were, how they mothered us, I guess. And there was there was quite a few conversations around the trauma of kind of some relationships with their mother. And it actually made me, it makes you look at your own relationship. It kind of made you step out of you and your mother and kind of look at it from that glass bowl lens, almost like, okay, so I always thought I had a good relationship with my mother, and then I see how my mum definitely didn't want to be like her mum. And what was really interesting about the stories we were sharing in our circle, I was actually started going for walks with my mum in the woods, and she started sharing stories with me about her mum and how she was made to feel, and how, you know, she was the seventh daughter of, you know, there were 7 kids, she was the 7th daughter, the witch, you know, there was, you know, the accident, all of the words. So my mum was sharing with me the fact that she never felt worthy. That wound has then transpired into me, and that's something I see in my own girls. And it's just, I think it kind of got us all talking about our own ancestral lineage and what we were carrying and what we were transmuting and healing for our lineage, but also for each other as well. because I know, you know, there were definitely a couple of other mums that had really bad relationships with their mothers, but there were also a couple of other women who had amazing relationships with their mothers, and one of them lost their mother during the process of writing the book. And it's just really, it's just so many different things came up. And, you know, birth, those that had babies, those that had children with special needs, you know, it was all welcome.
I love that, healing the mother line, our relationships with our mothers coming up. It just, with my recent journey, my mom shared a lot about her upbringing. Like, it's brought us much closer. And when I heard stories, like she would share stories of her upbringing with me and my daughter, it was so healing, because then you understand where your mother's coming from, or why she might have shown up in the way that she's shown up. And, you know, and I haven't shared fully my story with my daughter yet, but I fully intend to, so she can understand. It's like when we share our stories, our kids, our mothers, our grandmothers, you know, we see them through a new perspective, like through a new lens. And it's so totally healing. So healing. Yeah. What's been your biggest lesson with writing this book?
Sarah, do you want to go? Do you want me to dive in?
Oh, you go if it's there.
To be vulnerable, to keep showing up and being vulnerable, and not to be afraid of what's gonna come. Like, what's this gonna bring up? You know, I think that was one of my many fears around being part of this. Oh, what if it? And I'm no stranger to the shadow work. Like, you both know that. But especially with the mother, I you know, echo what Sarah said. You know, we all had, in terms of challenges, we all had that like mother load challenge. We could all empathize with that, but individually, yeah, we had these. The thing that was unique was we had our unique flavors of challenge within our mother line relationship. And I was worried of what that would stir up, of me sharing this story. No, it's not about my mum, you know, but just being part of this book and sharing something, I was scared of what that might bring up with my mother. But actually, it's really interesting, because I mean, nothing massively shifted or changed, you know, but my mum came round the other day, and I just asked her like one or two questions, and it spiraled into this 1.5-hour long conversation where we had that exact, you know, what you just were speaking about. Like, I was able to appreciate the decisions she made as a mother, and not that I ever blamed her for some of the instances that we spoke about, but just getting and hearing her perspective and hearing her side of the story, and hearing still how it, you know, the emotion's still there for her on certain aspects. It just it felt like it shifted so much. So sometimes we can go in with a fear of, oh, what bad thing is this gonna bring? But actually, what if it was beautiful? Like, what if it was incredible? Like, what if this was healing? So yes, the fear might be there, but could you open to the possibility of it being amazing and beautiful and healing? I think that's my answer to that question.
Yeah. That brought me back to when we were speaking about triggers and everything. And, you know, maybe one day you get reactive and you just like fire back if somebody triggered you. But what I really received from both of you is more like, no, it's an invitation for healing, to go within. And so this book, you could have been scared of what it might have triggered, or, you know, all that kind of stuff, but it was an invitation to heal on a deep level. Beautiful. Sarah, what was your biggest lesson with the book?
Biggest lesson? It's not, I guess, that all of us are welcome. I think that biggest lesson was, you know, in order to hold space for each other, we all need to show up with completely open hearts, and then we'll be met with completely open hearts. And I think that for me was the biggest lesson. I think what I also found, and when I first wrote a book and I had a radio show through the pandemic, a lot came up with my dad. So kind of, oh, you know, is this chapter and verse according to Sarah? That kind of, you know, shush kind of message came up quite a lot. And I guess it gave me the strength to respond to, or not respond from my 9-year-old self. You know, I think I mentioned about emotional immaturity. When that came through, I was like, oh shit, that I have been an emotional immature mum up until I felt like I grew into my maturity. The more I sat with people, the more I learned from others, the more I sat there and realized I wasn't alone in it all. And I think that for me was probably the biggest lesson, is that we're all, I hate this word, walking each other home. But ultimately, you know, we're all sitting there and none of us know what the hell is going on. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I used to second guess my body. I used to second guess my decisions. And I used to always want approval from other people to tell me I always wanted someone to tell me what to do. And I guess the other thing, this book has just been completely led by intuition. It hasn't been, we must do this now, we must put it together like this. It showed me that it is possible to work and lead from that place and have a successful, you know, create a successful space, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. That makes sense. Now I'm being daft. Now I'm going back into my little 12-year-old self. Like, shouldn't have said that.
No, and that completely makes sense. Completely makes sense that we're all walking each other home. We're all learning from each other. And I remember, I think it was in the first podcast episode that I had with you, and you said we learn from our kids too. You know, like we learn from our elders, but our kids teach us too. And it's like allowing ourselves to learn.
Every day's a school day. And my 9-year-old's normally the teacher.
Okay, last question for you both. How do you experience the mysteries, and how do you root into the self?
How do I root into the self? I hired a breathwork teacher to help me do that.
Her name's Kathy Bell.
Her name is Kathy Bell. You'll find her details there.
In the show notes.
Yeah. But I think also, I guess, me being the way that I am, storytelling is my thing, whether it's in PR, whether it's writing a book, whether it's sharing on social media. I find I heal through telling stories. So that, again, if I don't do that, then if I don't amplify it or get it on paper, it festers. So writing, breathwork.
You got 3 books now, don't you?
Yeah,
that's exciting. Very exciting.
It might be more, I think.
I think so.
There's definitely more.
Yeah.
And I mean, through the breath, obviously, Ovi, and it's, you know, I've Sarah and I've both been on this podcast before in different versions. So I love that question of, you know, how do you relate to the mysteries? And probably my answer last time was really great. But I think now, where I am right now in this iteration of who I am, it's to be more human, like just to be who I am. Like, that's how I root into myself, is to love and accept all facets and wrinkles and, you know, darkness and lightness. I'm learning right now to love and embrace and be proud of the energy that I bring. I think a lot of the time I'd seen that as, you know, not okay. It's not okay to be the whimsical light one. You have to be serious. And now I'm kind of like, I'm 14, I'm just not changing. So maybe who I've been all along is who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So relating to the mysteries, rooting into myself is just loving and accepting all those parts of me that maybe I've denied and shamed and not thought that were good enough. And in doing that, it gives you a spiraling inwards. It gives you that deeper respect for life and the mystery. And being more of who you are, I think, is the whole point. Yeah,
I love that. Being more of who you are is the whole point. Yeah.
Someone write that down for me. I can't be bothered. We're done.
Yeah. Anything else that's on anybody's heart before we close that you want to throw into the conversation? Where can people find your book, your podcast,
just thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You can find her on Amazon, on at Waterstones, in Happy Glastonbury in Glastonbury.
I love that.
There's wakeupmother.com. So there's a Substack page, and from wakeupmother.com there's all of the links to all of the radio shows and the podcasts and the unedited versions of the podcasts, and then links to all the authors and contributors, and
that'll be in the show notes. Everybody can check it out. Well, thank you both so much for this conversation. I love you both. It was fun.
Love you.
We
should have wrote chapters after our retreat. We'll have to do it again.
Totally should.
Thank you so much for joining me for an episode of the Phoenix Rising podcast. Please like, share, download, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week for another episode on the Phoenix Rising podcast. Sending so much love.